Autogen Teachable Agent. This is a very powerful agent that was created by the Autogen team, the Microsoft team, and I'm trying to leverage it in order to help me in automating stuff. And basically, the core abilities of the teachable agent are basically the fact that you can teach him skills and he can remember the skills that you taught him. So basically it's an agent that has memory and can keep on improving and kind of self-optimizing. I still trying to figure out what is the best way to use it and leverage this, but I wanted to share with you a few of my learnings, and I think it's very powerful and it has a ton of potential. Let's cover first what is exactly the teachability agent. And as I said, it's an Autogen, it's a type of an Autogen agent. This is the code. Let me make it bigger so you guys will be able to see it as well. And basically I'm going to read what they are saying over here. Teachability uses a vector database to give an agent the ability to remember user teachings, where the user is any caller, human or not, sending messages to a teachable agent. Teachability is designed to be composable with other agent capabilities to make any conversable agent teachable. And basically, whenever you add teachability to an agent, the following are modified. The agent system message is appended with a note about the agent new ability. If you guys remember or don't remember, system agent is basically the description that we provide to the agent. So the agent knows what is his roles, abilities, and background. And a hook is added to the agent's processed last received messages hookable method, and the hook potentially modifies the last of the received messages to include earlier teachings related to the message. Added teaching do not propagate into the stored message history. If new user teachings are detected, they are added to new memos in the vector database. Now let's move on. Let me see if there's anything crucial over here. So over here, they are covering the fact that it is customizable to a certain degree. We can change the number of memos to retrieve, and you will understand this a bit later. But let's move on to the most important part here is basically we update the system message with this function. You've been given the special ability to remember user teachings from prior conversation. And here is another function that basically decides whether to store something from one user comment in a database. And the way that it analyzes and decides if to add a comment to the database is, does any part of the text ask the agent to perform a task or solve a problem? Answer with just one word, yes or no. If yes, if any of the text that we send to the agent is basically requiring him to solve a task or solve a problem, so what it does is briefly copy any advice from text that may be useful for a similar but different task in the future. But if no advice is present, just respond with none. Now, briefly copy just the task from the text, then stop, don't solve it, and don't include any advice. Now it asks it to generalize the task. So summarize very briefly in general terms the type of task described in the text. Leave out details that might not appear in similar problems. So basically, whenever we ask an agent to solve a task, it figures out the teachability class is figuring out if this is a task or not. If it is, it takes the task, it generalizes the task, and it's going to store it in the database. Next, it remembers the task. Now, this is a function that basically tests if what is the information to be learned. Does the text contain information that could be committed to memory? Answer with just yes or no. If yes, so imagine that the user forgot this information in text. How would they ask you for this information? Include no other text in your response. Now it copies the information from the text that should be committed to the memory. Add no explanation. So basically, this way we are building the database with advice about how to solve the task and the generalized tasks. Here, this function is basically trying to figure out whether to retrieve memos from the database and add them to the chat context. So basically trying to determine if there's anything in the database that we already added in the past, because as I said, the teachable agent has memory and he remembers what we taught him. So this function figures out if there is anything relevant in the database to the new question. So you see later that I have taught my agent, my teachable agent, that any time I say good morning, he needs to ask me if I went to the gym yesterday and did I complete the sales funnel that I was supposed to finish. Anytime I just tell him good morning, he's going to ask me, did you go to the gym yesterday? No matter what. And this is kind of, I wouldn't say it's fine tuning, but it's similar idea, somewhat similar idea. So whenever I taught him, whenever he sees good morning, he needs to ask me this question. Did you go to the gym yesterday? You will see later. Now, let's move on. I don't want to bore you with too much technical stuff. Let me see if there's anything relevant here. And let's see. Okay, so let's see here. So the next class is memo store. So provides memory storage and retrieval for a teachable agent using a vector database. Each database entry, called a memo, so memo is just a database entry, is a pair of strings, an input text and an output text. The input text might be a question or a task to perform, and the output text might be the answer to the question or advice on how to perform the task. Now, the vector, these pairings are going to be embedded in vectors. And this is important just to understand how exactly the database is structured. Let me see. I think that's it from the important stuff. And here there are just a few examples that I want to share with you. So these are examples just to understand how it works. So as a few arbitrary examples to the vector database just to make retrieval less trivial. So the first example is when I say papers, I mean research papers, which are typically PDFs. Basically, this is an example of a task that we can give the teachable agent and he will recall it. He will store it in the memory. So as you can see here, yes means this is going to be stored. Next example, please verify that each paper you listed actually uses a LangChain. Here it's no, because this isn't a general requirement or a task. It's just a specific task and it is not general, and this is why it is labeled as a no. Now, tell GPT the output should still be latex code. Again, this is no. This isn't something general, so we don't want to teach the agent anything that isn't general and is relevant for all of our use cases. If it's just like a request that we're making the teachable agent for one instance, so it knows based on these examples most of the time, not most of the time even, but the goal is for it to understand that if we have just one small requirement that is only one instance, we don't want it to understand and learn this behavior and use it every time afterwards. Hint, convert PDF to text and then answer questions based on them. Label yes. So this is something that we want to use across the board all the time. And this is why it is labeled as a yes. To create a good PowerPoint, include enough content to make it interesting. Again, this is a yes because it's a general requirement from now on. This is something a skill that we would like to teach the agent, in opposing to this, which is just like a one-time request from the agent. And there are a few examples here. Double check to be sure that columns in table correspond to what asked before. This is a yes. Compare the H index of Daniel Weld and Oren Etzioni. This is labeled alone because it's just a specific request. Okay, great. So we covered the teachability class. Now let's move on to my example. This is my example. Okay, so we show the example. Now my test. This is the code. I will remove the OpenAI API key afterwards, so don't worry about that. Now the code is very straightforward. You can just copy it from the Autogen in their GitHub repository. They have a notebook, and over here you see, hi Yaron, how are you? This is the chat initiation. This is the Conda environment, and this is the conversation. So teachable agent to user, hi Yaron, how are you? It not even remembers because this is just like the initiation message. Now I said good morning. It answered me, good morning Yaron, did you upload the funnel? As I told you before I started the video a few days ago, before I started recording the video, a few days ago I started testing this teachable agent, and I asked him that whenever I say good morning, I told him that he should ask me about the funnel. So basically nag me until I launch the funnel. So I said not yet. I also asked him to, every time we start the conversation, ask me regarding if I went to the gym yesterday or not. So I said not yet, and as you can see here, I understand. Don't forget to do it later. By the way, did you go to the gym yesterday? Not yet. Then it said, all right, it's important to keep up with your routine. Have we drafted any emails today? This is another thing. I asked it to assist me with drafting emails. As you can see, the conversation started with him asking me regarding the funnel and regarding going to the gym and regarding drafting emails. So this is all stuff that I already taught the agent that I would like to ask me. Then again, not yet. By the way, I did go to the gym and I did move on with the funnel, but just for the sake of the example, I said no. Okay, we need to work on that later. It's important to stay on top of our tasks. Now, I told him, agree, can you help me write an email? And whenever I taught it that whenever I ask him to write an email, he should respond with asking me regarding the recipient name, their position, the subject of the email, and ask me when was the last time I spoke with the person, and as you can see, it did so. And then I decided, I changed my mind. Let's teach you more cool stuff. Question related. Can you suggest a list of questions to ask a client before creating an automation? Gathering data about the automation and the use case. So basically, before I even prime him, before I teach him to help me with coming up with questions about automations, I first want to see like what he suggests. So certainly, here's a list of questions one might ask a client before starting an automation project. So first, can you describe the process that you want to automate in detail? 2, what are the expected results of the automation? 3, are there any specific tools or platforms you prefer for the automation? 4, how often will the automated task be performed? 5, who are the key stakeholders of the process? 6, what are the current pain points of the process? How would you measure the success of the automation? Any specific timelines or deadlines? Any security or compliance considerations? And do we have any third-party services or applications that we need to take in mind? So these are the questions that he suggested. And then I said, awesome. Now, whenever I tell you I need to create a new automation, you need to ask me these questions. And he said, understood, from now on, whenever you mention that you need to create an automation, I'll use these questions to help gather necessary information. Cool, awesome. So basically, he was taught now that whenever I ask him about automation, he needs to respond with these questions. Now, I need to close the conversation by writing exit. Whenever you write exit, you update the database. So I updated the database. The agent is now supposed to learn this new skill. Now let's launch again and see if it worked. Basically, I want to see, I asked him about the automation, and he needs to give me these questions. Let's see if it's going to write all the questions. He's going to seek in the database if there's anything related. Very interesting to see if it will work. Okay, sure, I can help you with that. Based on our previous conversation, here are the steps we should follow. Some questions we may need to ask. I established and have you. Okay, so it seems like. Can you please detail what specific tasks you will? Nice. So it's interesting because it combined the questions I asked him regarding the email. Like I told the agent that whenever I want to write an email, he needs to ask me regarding who is the recipient, what is the subject, and when did we last connect. So this is one thing that I taught him, and you guys saw that I also taught him regarding the question of automations, and he kind of combined them both, which isn't bad. It really surprised me. It isn't bad, but probably needs some fine tuning, and it's up to me. Obviously, anything is up to me, but obviously it's up to me or up to us that we need to probably provide better input, make it clearer within the prompt what we need to get, and also make it clearer in the workflow to let the teachable agent understand exactly when we want us to fetch a specific memo from the database. But just for the sake of example, you can see here I'm going to write good morning, and he's supposed to respond with question regarding my funnel. Did you upload the funnel? And by the way, did you go to the gym yesterday? So this was a simple queue. Anytime I tell good morning, ask me about the funnel, and did I go to the gym yesterday? So he knows that he needs to provide me this answer. So probably what I would need to do now is just create a better pair. So whenever I write the word automation, return 10 questions about building an automation process. Whenever I write the word automation, you need to respond with 10 questions that I need to ask my client about his automation. And this is probably the way to go, like making it very, very clear. At the end of the day, they do have somewhat of a brain. They're using GPT-4 in this instance, but we still need to guide the teachable agent in a very direct manner. I think it has a ton of potential. As you can see here, these are the 10 questions. Exit. Let's see. Let's restart. Write automation. And hopefully it will respond with these 10 questions. Awesome, great. Automation, and it gave me back these 10 questions. And just to clarify, if you guys are like, if it's not obvious, so it's not as if this is the same conversation. We close the conversation. You can assume that even if in 10 days time I come to this teachable agent and I write the word automation, it's still going to spit out these questions. And this is why this is so powerful. It's a teachable agent. It's it's literally a teachable agent. Whenever you teach this agent stuff or tasks, it can afterwards learn, implement what you taught him. So I haven't figured out yet how I can use this in production level, but I believe could be very powerful and also streamline many processes. My goal is basically to have one, at least for the beginning, have one teachable agent, which will be kind of my virtual assistant or personal assistant, and try to teach him a lot of stuff that are more related to prioritizing and productivity and like my personal schedule. This is like the stuff that is more simple. See how that goes, and if it works out well, obviously scale this, build more agents, more teachable agents, and see where it goes. I guess that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this short video about Autogen Teachable Agents. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment below with the word teachable agent, just for the algorithm. And I know that also my call to actions, they do something for you guys. So teachable agent in the comment section. If you have any comments or questions, obviously I'd be happy to answer. And until next time, keep on automating.